welcome back to Caffeine and Crime. I am your host, Allie, and this week we are diving into another serial killer. This is episode 8, so if you've missed any of the past cases, make sure you go check them out. The last one will be linked down below in the description if you want to check it out, and also at the end of this video. Today I have part 2 of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. So in the last part, we talked about a good chunk of his Night Stalker killings, and we got all the way to the part where he was kind of keeping up with media coverage and threw his sneakers over the side of the Golden Gate Bridge to throw the police off. So we're going to be continuing that today. Make sure you guys check out episode 7, though, that I posted last week if you guys want to listen to part 1 of Richard Ramirez before jumping into this one. I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy during this time. And we are coming to the end of serial killer season. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but don't worry, we have one more killer after Richard Ramirez, and it'll be another 2-part before jumping into season 3. That's insane. So on August 24th, 1985, Richard traveled 76 miles south of Los Angeles in a stolen orange Toyota to Mission Viejo? I'm gonna mispronounce that. But that night, he arrived at the home of James Romeo Jr. James had just returned home from a family vacation to Rosarito Beach in Mexico. And his son was 13 years old, and his name is also James Romeo. He's James Romeo III. And James III happened to wake up. So this 13-year-old boy, he wakes up and he hears Richard's footsteps outside the house. Thinking that there was somebody about to break into their house, he goes and he wakes his parents. And Richard flees from the scene, and the dad, James, raced outside and noted the color, the make, and style of the car, as well as a partial license plate number, and he was able to contact the police with this information, believing that it was just somebody that was going to try to break into their house and steal something, had no idea that it was actually the Night Stalker. And after this happened, Richard broke into another house. Like, it wasn't enough to, shake him, oh my gosh, I could have just, gotten caught. But he broke into the house of Bill Carnes, who was 30, and his fiancée, Inez, I think is her name, Erickson, who was 29. He broke through the back door, and Richard entered the sleeping couple's bedroom, which awoke Bill when he heard the noise of the .25 caliber handgun being cocked. Ugh, so awful. He shot Bill in the head 3 times before turning his attention to Inez. Oh my god. Ooh. He told the terrified woman that he was the Night Stalker and forced her to swear she loved Satan as he beat her with his fist and bound her with neckties from the closet. And after stealing what he could find, he dragged her to another room, raped and sodomized her. He then demanded cash and more jewelry and made her swear on Satan that there was no more before leaving the home. He told her while he was leaving, "Tell them the Night Stalker was here." Inez untied herself and went to the neighbor's house to get help for her severely injured fiancé. Surgeons removed the bullets from his head, and he survived his injuries. Insane. Thank God, though. Inez gave a detailed description of this Night Stalker to the police, and they were able to cast another footprint from the shoe that Richard was wearing. The stolen car was found on August 28th in Wilshire Center, Los Angeles, and the police also obtained a single fingerprint from the rearview mirror despite Ramirez's careful efforts to wipe the car clean of his prints. The print was possibly identified as belonging to Richard, so he was caught, finally. He was described as a 25-year-old drifter from Texas with a long rap sheet that included many arrests for traffic and illegal drug violations. And law enforcement officials decided to release to the media a mugshot of Richard on December 12, 1984. They announced him as a car thief, and the Night Stalker finally had a face. At the police press conference, it was announced, "We know who you are, and soon everyone else will. There will be no place you can hide." I'm sure that shook him a little bit, but on August 30th, 1985, Richard took a bus to Tucson, Arizona to visit his brother, unaware that he had become the lead story in virtually every major newspaper and television news program across California. So he had been following along with the coverage. I'm surprised he didn't see this coverage taking place. And then he didn't end up meeting his brother. So part of me feels like he's seen coverage somewhere and was like, oh shit, and he fled back to Los Angeles. And on the morning of August 31st, he walked past police officers who were staking out a bus terminal in hopes of catching the killers if he attempted to flee. And he walked straight to a convenience store in East Los Angeles. After noticing a group of elderly Mexican women fearfully identifying him as El Matador, or the killer, Ramirez saw his face on the front pages of the newspaper rack and fled from the store in a panic. He ran across the Santa Ana freeway and attempted to carjack a woman who was chased away by bystanders who pursued him. After hopping over several fences and attempting 2 more carjackings, he was eventually subdued by a group of residents, one of whom had struck him over the head with a metal bar in the pursuit. The group held Richard down and relentlessly beat him until the police arrived and took him to custody. Thank God. It's insane, but can you imagine how many more people this guy would have killed? All of those people are just fucking heroes. The jury selection for the trial began 3 years later on July 22nd of 1988. At his first court appearance, he raised his hand with a pentagon drawn on it and yelled, "Hail Satan." On August 3rd, 1988, the Los Angeles Times reported that some jail employees overheard him planning to shoot the prosecutor with a gun, and Richard intended to have smuggled a gun into the courtroom, supposedly. A metal detector was installed outside, and intensive searches were conducted on people entering. And on August 14th, which is actually my baby's birthday, one of them, of 1988, though, the trial was interrupted because one of the jurors, Phyllis Singletary, did not arrive at the courtroom. Later that day, she was found shot to death in her apartment. As you can imagine, the other jury members were terrified. They couldn't help but wondering whether Richard had somehow directed it to happen from inside his prison cell, or whether he had the power to reach other jurors and kill them off too. But it was ultimately determined that he had nothing to do with her death, and she was shot and killed by her boyfriend, who later committed suicide with the same weapon in a hotel. So that's for another day. The juror that replaced her was very frightened to go home, to go anywhere, really. And I mean, God, I would be too. It's insane. On September 20th, 1989, Richard was convicted of all charges: 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. During the penalty phase of the trial on November 7th, 1989, he was sentenced to die in California's gas chamber. He stated to reporters after the death sentences, "Big deal, death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." Ugh. This guy is just such a creep. I know I don't usually mention this, but I found this on the Wikipedia, where I obviously get a lot of different notes and stuff like that for. But this trial was $1.8 million, which at the time is the most expensive in the history of California until it was surpassed by O.J. Simpson's murder case in 1994. It's insane. But by the time of this trial, Richard had fans who were writing to him, of course. There always is, right? They were coming by and visiting him. In the beginning of 1985, Doreen Loy wrote him nearly 75 letters during his time in prison. And in 1988, Richard proposed to her, and on October 3rd, 1996, they were married in California's San Quentin State Prison. For many years before Richard's death, Doreen would say that she would commit suicide when Richard was executed. However, they eventually broke up when Doreen left Richard, and by the time of his death, he was engaged to a 23-year-old female writer. The estimates of when his death penalty would have been served would have been in his early 70s when it was carried out, but that was due to California's lengthy appeals process. And August 2006 was when Richard had his first round of state appeals, and they ended unsuccessfully when the California Supreme Court upheld his convictions and death sentence. On September 2006, the California Supreme Court denied his request for a rehearing, and Richard had appeals pending until the time of his death. Richard had also scored a 31 out of 40 on Hare's psychopath checklist, which makes him a primary psychopath. However, he may have well leaned towards a sociopath instead. He might have even met the criteria they think as a narcissist, but I mean, I would agree. And there isn't any current evidence as of 2020 that suggests that he had a narcissistic personality disorder, or if he had any antisocial traits or anything like that. Antisocial personality disorder is the dominant disorder in Richard's case, and Wikipedia says that due to the nature of his crimes, he may have ASPD, which is antisocial personality disorder, mixed with schizophrenic traits and that type of ordeal as well. It says that the schizophrenia could have also been made worse by drugs like cocaine, LSD, and PCP that he was using. Richard died of complications secondary to B-cell lymphoma at Marin General Hospital in Green Bay, California, June 7, 2013. He had also been infected by chronic substance abuse and chronic hepatitis C viral infection, and at 53 years old, he had been on death row for more than 23 years. So, I mean, at least it's one less person on death row, and he's gone. I mean, that's kind of what I have to say. But one more closing thing about this case is that in 2016, shocker, this is still going on with evidence, officials, is when they disclosed the evidence of the second suspect. They identified it through DNA sample retrieved from the scene, who is believed to have been present at the Leung's murder. Authorities have not publicly identified the suspect, described as being a juvenile at the time, and have not brought charges due to the lack of evidence, pretty much. And that was the little 9-year-old. So, pretty much, that was known as his first killing that they know of, but it was not identified or connected to him until 2009 when his DNA was matched there. So I guess they were still working on that in 2016 apparently. But I had read somewhere where that could have been linked with somebody else. I don't know if they were thinking maybe he had somebody that was working with him. It is crazy how many houses this honestly kid, I mean, he's young, was breaking into of couples and several, or not several, but still 2-3 people in a house, and how many times he just kept doing it and getting away with it. It's insane. And there's never the mention of him wearing a mask that I seen. I mean, maybe he did, but there was the times where he was threatening them, telling them not to look at him, swear to Satan you won't look at me, that type of ordeal. But I guess that's how they got the creepy mugshot, which will be in today's blog post if you guys want to check it out. The blog is caffeinecrimepodcast.blogspot.com, but it's always in the description box if you guys want to check it out. as we wrap up the Night Stalker. But next week, I will be bringing you guys our last serial killer. It'll be a part 1, but it'll be our last serial killer for serial killer season. I definitely want to bring serial killer season back, but I am looking forward to jumping into some regular cases. And if you guys have any that you guys want to request or recommend, please send them over on my Instagram at Caffeine Crime Podcast. Just DM me and I'll get back to you. But I would love to have some ideas on either current cases or older cases. I'm going to try to avoid serial killers just so that I can bring the serial killer season back. But I am looking forward to doing like some other ones that are a little bit lighter, and I can wrap up the whole story in one part. So that's the nice thing about regular seasons too. But let me know what you guys think about the Night Stalker. It is a crazy one, and I've always known about him, but going through all the different articles and watching the different videos and stuff like that, it was just crazy how many times he broke into people's houses and the things that he did. And even though there were like, in a lot of cases, you don't have survivors, so it's amazing that there was so many people who survived his break-ins and attacks, but it's insane that he got away and free from that for so long, especially since all of them were in the California area and around like the same place in California. It was just these towns like back to back to back. It was insane. But besides that, yeah, make sure you guys follow me on Instagram and we can connect there. I always try to post interesting photos to keep my layout going. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this serial killer part 1 and part 2. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next week with season 2, episode 9.